Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. You know, people always ask me, Professor Smartman, do you know any other languages? And I always tell them the same thing. Of course I do, you silly saphead. They call me the fat cat of fluency. But there is one language that I find particularly interesting, and that language is Japanese, or Nihongo as they call it. The only problem is, once I start prattling on about how interesting it is to me, it always becomes boring for everybody else. So I thought to myself, Smartman, surely you can concoct a clever class to level up the likability of learning this lovely language. So today, we're going to talk about Japanese through the most entertaining and informative media of all, TV commercials. We're talking about I'm gonna translate Long Man. It's gonna be long. It's gonna be Long Man. Okay, we're gonna talk about Long Man. How are you doing today? Are you ready for some learning? Because it is time. I woke up in a stupor at 6 a.m., wrote down the entire script for that video that was advertising this stream, and then went back to sleep. And now, here we are. I was thinking to myself, what do I have to teach? What do I know that I can teach on Sundays on such short notice? And the answer was Japanese. But then I thought, well, do I want to write a whole ass lesson plan that actually makes sense for Japanese? Absolutely not. So instead, I'm going to translate and talk about Japanese via the first commercial for Long Man and what may become a full series of Long Man Japanese translations. Because what's more useful than the knowledge of what's being said in Japanese meme commercials? Nothing. That's what. All right, so first things first, why don't we get a refresher of the first episode of Long Man and see what it's about, and then we'll start talking about what's actually being said and how it's being said.
もっと長く見てたいな。
Long man.
危ないね、あの人。
sakeru gummy 対長いsakeru gummy.
The dance is part of the lesson. You got to do the dance at the end, or else it doesn't count. You have a question? No, go ahead. What's your question? Why is Long Man in English and not in Japanese? They just do that. Everybody learns English in school in Japan. And sometimes they just think it sounds cooler, pretty much. You'll see, they do that with their own language too, because there's the two alphabets, and one is technically... They're two phonetic alphabets, and one is technically for Japanese words, and one is technically for words that they borrow from other languages. But sometimes they'll just mix and match based on what they think looks cool. So, the very first thing.
どうしたの?
That. どうしたの? Let's get into it. Part 1. This is どうしたの? We're basically speaking 17th century France. Yeah, they teach you polite shit first in Japanese, but we're not doing that because they're actually talking. So, just straight up, どうしたの is, it says what is it on the commercial, but I would, in a natural English sense, it would be like if somebody was like, oh shit, and you were like, oh, what's up? Like, oh, what happened? What's going on? That kind of thing is what he's saying there. And do is questioning what's going on with the other person kind of thing. Do desu ka is how is it? Do shiyou ka is what should we do? Shita is the verb, and no is just a common conversational word at the end of a sentence that means it's a question. Shita is suru. Here's a fun thing about Japanese that we can talk about. Verbs start in dictionary form. Again, this is going to be chaotic because we're just translating this and nobody knows what we're talking about, except for me. If you have a verb, which this verb is in its base form, which is dictionary form, suru, which is suru. Suru. Because R's are ru. They're kind of like when you go to roll your R but then you don't. And there is no L. It's kind of in between. Ru, rari, rurero. So suru is to do. It's like doing a thing. If it's not a specific verb like, eating or drinking, let's do that is like suru. So the reason that it's shita when it is past tense, each ending of a verb has its own way to be changed into tenses. So like for any verb that ends in uru, like suru is one, it will go to ita. So suru becomes shita. It's weird, but it's always true, and it always applies to every verb that has that ending. And kuru, which is the verb for come, not like that, you filthy-minded bastards, becomes, you could probably figure it out. If it's uru, it becomes ita. So kuru becomes kita for came. Again, not like that. So once you know that, anytime you're looking up like what a verb is and you see that it has uru at the end of it, no matter how long the beginning part is, because they can be longer than this, you always know that to put it into past tense, that's how you say it. You do it like that. Which is nice. It's convenient to, actually have rules that you can follow. Are the tenses gendered? No. And so we could talk about some other ones. That's to eat, taberu. And if you want to put anything that ends in eru, right? The last one was uru becomes ita. Eru just becomes this, you just take off the ru and put the tense. So it's just tabe, ta. That's the easiest one. There's a bunch of verbs that end in eru, and you just take off the ru part and you just put whatever you want after that, and it just becomes the correct form of the tense. You've almost only learned gendered language. That a verb could be so easy to change. Yeah, dude, this is the thing. Like Japanese is really different, but it's just got like rules, and if you just learn them, then it's not hard. It's not like super nuanced in the way that grammar works. You just have to learn what the rules are. You just have to learn how it works, and then it just applies like every time. So yeah, those are verb forms. That's how that works. This is the dictionary form. If you want to do a real quick, you might have heard mas a lot, which is how you would make it polite, and you do that the same way that you change tenses. Once you learn how to change the dictionary forms, you can pretty much change it into any way that you need it to be. Because like suru became ita, right? So if you want to make it polite, you put mas on the end, but you change it the same way. So suru becomes shi mas. And then suddenly it's polite, because I don't know, mas makes things polite, I guess. And ta means it's past tense. Every past tense ends in ta, and every polite form ends in mas. The same thing with taberu that we just did. That's the easy one. Oh right, I'm pointing at these like you can read them. Sorry. How it was taberu and tabeta, it's taberu, tabemas. So it's the same way. And like if you want to make it negative, it's the same thing too. You do nai instead of any of these. So it would be, yeah, if you want to do don't do, instead of shita, you do shinai. Or instead of tabemas or taberu, you do tabenai, and then it's don't eat. So really, it's just like learning how to change the ending of all of the verbs, and then you can figure out what all you need to say. And then it's easy to tell, like you always know if something's negative or positive or past tense or whatever because of the way that the sentence ends. How do you past tense it then? Like didn't eat? Masen is the negative polite. Tabemas, tabemasen. Tabemas is eat, tabemasen is don't eat. And then for polite negatives, you just put the verb for is, which is des, after it, and then past tense that. So deshita is past tense, and you just put that at the end of a negative polite. If you're gonna do it non-polite for the nai, like tabenai, then you do tabenakatta, so you drop the I and you add katta. So it still ends in a ta. So, yeah, there you go. We got all of that out of doshita no. Which barely means fucking anything. Oh yeah, so we have an interesting thing because this doesn't get translated because it doesn't really make sense to translate directly in English, which is
トールさんが避ける組咲いてる時の顔が好き
yeah. So she says, I like the face you make when you tear sakeru gummies. But in Japanese, you don't really say you. His name is Toru, but it never gets translated that his name is Toru because you refer to people in their face as their first name like all the time. You don't say you say, oh, Toru. I like looking at Toru when he does this while you're talking straight to Toru, which is interesting. You don't do a lot of like pronouncing to you. You say the name or you don't say anything generally. Like you could leave the name out here and have it just implied that you're talking about the person and they would get it. But you don't say you. No, you don't speak about yourself in third person. You just kind of, I mean, you can. I don't think it's as weird to do as it is in English. But you generally just don't use a pronoun. You wouldn't have to say, I like water. You would just say, like water. And people would know that you're talking about yourself. So she says his name first, and then we get a chance for sentence structure, which we can talk about as well. Which we didn't really get in the last one, because it's just like a little thing. Toru-san ga sakeru gumi saiteru toki no kao ga suki. I will also say this always looks longer in this alphabet than it does if you start putting the Chinese alphabet in, but then the symbols get more complicated. That's his name. Ga is a particle. Ga, I don't know what the equivalent particle of that is in English, but ga is just a particle. That means that the thing before ga is doing the action that comes after ga. Do they have spaces or anything? No. That's why it gets better, like, if you can use kanji, because if you could use kanji, then it would be broken up by Chinese symbols here and here and here and here and here, so that you know that those are like separate words from each other. It gets kind of chaotic if everything is written in the one alphabet, because they don't really do spaces. Toru-san ga means Toru-san's doing the thing. Sakeru gumi o saiteru is the thing that Toru-san is doing, which is ripping a sakeru gummy. Just like tabe-ta was past tense, taberu was present tense, tabeteiru is currently doing it. So tabeteiru would be eating right now. Taberu would be I eat. Tabeta would be I ate. Tabeteiru is I am eating. So saiteiru is he is tearing. So because we went over the random verb tenses and how to change them, like I don't actually know the word for tearing, but I can learn to look it up, because saiteiru means that it went to e like shita and kita. So saku is going to be the verb because it has to be uru to go to e. Wait. Never mind, I'm wrong. That's a different thing. That's kiku. That's a different form than shita and kita, but it is right. If it ends in ku, there's verbs that end in ku, and then they go to e, ita. Sai ita from saku. Ki ita from kiku for listen. But it's the same principle that if you saw something that you didn't know, then you could reduce it back to the dictionary form or the impolite form to be able to look it up in the dictionary and know what the word was. Sakeru gumi o saiteru. Toru-san ga sakeru gumi o saiteru. Is Toru-san is tearing the sakeru gummy. Toki at the end means it's the time that he is tearing the gummy. And then she says, no kao ga suki. Kao ga suki is I like your face. Kao is face. And then again, ga, which is the particle that means the thing after is affecting the thing before. And ski is like. So the thing that is liked is the face. But then you put the two together with no, which makes the first one possessive of the second one. So I guess literally it would be like the time during which Toru is tearing Sakeru Gummy's face is what I like. Which is like, I like the face you make while you're doing that, is what that ends up coming down to.
So,
もっと長く見てたいな
Soul, when he says soul right there, that's easy because like soul desu ka is always translated as is that so? You could just kind of imagine soul as just being, is that so? I like your sakeru gummy tearing face. And he's like, is that so?
長く見てたいな
Motto. Oh yeah, there's an interesting thing here too, where motto is more, but you don't say longer. You say more long. You say more. It's always more adjective, more long, more fun, more whatever. There's not like longer. That's not a thing. You just say more and then the adjective. So motto nagai is more long. On words like this, where they have this small symbol, that means that it doubles the consonant. For more emphasis, you like say it harder, like motto, which she kind of does at the beginning instead of motto, which is as opposed to if it didn't have the thing, it would just be motto. Or like ippai is like a bunch. And you'd be like ippai to be like a fucking bunch. You're like, bah. It's like the longer and harder you say the consonant, the more emphasis there is. Nagai is long, but she goes cutting off I's with K's to roll into a verb. Is motto nagaku mitetai. Cut off the I, put a K there. Cause fuck it, it's Japanese, it's what they do. I want to be looking at it long. Motto nagaku mitetai. Na at the end is just kind of like a, I feel like it just kind of expresses like a daydreamy, waxing poetic kind of feeling. Like, man, that would be great, huh? Just like that kind of emphasis on whatever you were saying. All right. I can't believe that you would fart in class like that, Nomi. That's a weak fart. Either hold it in or do it loud and proud, all right? Hold it in or make it a real one, you know? If there's not enough for the entire class to smell, then why are you even farting? No, that's what I'm talking about.
避ける組対長い避ける組
Abunai ne ano hito. So the first word, Mr. Danger. Yeah. Yeah, it's way funnier that way, dude. He's calling him dangerous. Like, they use dangerous to just kind of mean, oh shit, that guy's crazy. Oh, that's wild. That's fucking weird. Like, you can also abuse the same words to mean something is cool in the same way that, like, if you're calling something, oh, that's sick, right? You don't mean it's fallen ill. You mean it's good. So they also use dangerous in that kind of way. Abunai ne. Abunai is the word that's dangerous. Sort of they're crazy and dangerous. I mean, there's like other words to mean that they're crazy, but if you're going to directly translate it to English and you say that guy is dangerous, then it means that that guy is a threat to you, which is not what this means. Which is why I say like, that guy's crazy. In English. They will have the same word in actual dangerous places to warn you that something is actually dangerous, but in this context, he's not saying, oh, that guy's gonna fucking murder us. That guy's got a weapon. We gotta watch out. That guy's dangerous. He's crazy maybe in a little sketch way. Yeah, sketch. Yes. He's sketch. Sketch is the fucking perfect word for it, dude. Abunai like this means he's sketch. That guy's fucking sketch. If we're gonna break it up, so that part in between what I circled, where he says ne, abunai ne, to me, every time I hear ne at the end of something, what I picture is wink wink, like nudge nudge. Know what I mean? Nudge nudge, right? Huh? Isn't it? Affirm what I'm saying, right? You think so too, right? Huh? Yeah, ne. Yeah, so that's what ne is. That's ne, isn't it? Right? Huh? Right? Yeah. Oh man, this is fun, right? Yeah, tanoshii ne, right? Isn't it? Don't you think so too? Agree with me, I need validation from you. It's not that desperate, but that's like, you're emphasizing it while simultaneously kind of like saying, right, you think so too, right? Like, ano is where ano hito, we can learn both. Hito is a good word to learn, that just means person. Ano, sono, kono, you can learn this. Like of a real thing they teach you like really early on. And by they, of course, I mean professional teachers like me. So, ano hito means that guy over there. Hito, vocabulary word, person. Now it's like Christmas. What do you think about that? The final thing is going to be ano. Why does he say ano hito? Because the guy's over there. You see where he is compared to them, right? He's over there. So, ano, that shit over there. Sono is that shit. And kono is this shit. Like this shit, that shit, and then that shit over there. And the asoko, well, asoko is its own word, but the dynamic between if like it starts with and it means over there, so means that, like not completely present, and then ko means this. Applies to other shit too, like achi, sochi, and kochi, which is like here, there, and like off over there. I always forget that that's not able to be read. Ano, that shit over there. Sono, that shit. Kono, this shit. I'd like to think this is a helpful graphic. All right, well, that concludes the translation of the first sakeru gummy commercial. Maybe you learned one thing from this. Maybe you learned absolutely nothing from it because it was just chaotic and not designed to actually teach you any kind of retainable information. But that's okay, because I think it was more fun than having an actual lesson, and I'm not going to write a lesson plan. This is Twitch, not a goddamn teacher job.